Hello there, welcome in everybody to Gino's Best Movie Reviews. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the 2024 movie adaptation of the book It Ends With Us from Colleen Hoover. Now, this movie was directed by Justin Baldoni, starring Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni and Jenny Slate and a few others. Okay, so I never read the book. So I went into this strictly as a movie viewer, and there are going to be spoilers in this review. So again, this is Colleen Hoover's book to movie adaptation of It Ends With Us, directed again by Justin Baldoni, and it stars Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, and Jenny Slate. Now, I will be getting into spoilers here, so if you are here and you don't want to know spoilers, just bookmark this video and come back later. So here we go. So I'm as a movie viewer and not as the book reader, I found that the people who read the book probably felt differently. So the movie starts off in a car. Blake Lively's in a car. She's coming into Maine. Beautiful landscape shots of my home region of New England. And you find out that her father. She's coming there to attend her father's funeral. She is told by her mom when trying to give her eulogy to just list the 5 best things that you like about him. She had a napkin when she goes up to give her eulogy, and it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, completely blank. I'm not sure if the book touched on that or not, but I thought visually that played better in a visual medium than it could kind of reading that scene. So I thought that was really good. The movie didn't follow a traditional 3-act structure that a movie usually does, but again, that's because it's adapted from a book, and that's fine. I found it kind of refreshing. She goes in. She has to walk out of her father's funeral because she doesn't have anything to say nice about him. So it's implied that he's not the best of people, but they haven't described like what was going on that made her really not like dad. So cut to Boston. She's on this tall building, high-rise skyscraper hanging off the edge, and a gentleman comes out, Justin Baldoni, who I didn't know was the director when I first saw the movie. I had never seen this guy before. Knowing that he's the director now makes a little bit more sense as far as kind of like how they did some of the things in the movie. So he comes upstairs. The first thing we see is him kicking a chair, right? Aggressively. He notices Blake Lively's character, Lily Blossom Bloom, which they make an effort in the movie to point out how ridiculous that name is. So if that's her real name in the book, I wonder if they did the same thing in the book to make it point out that this is ridiculous name. But at the end of the day, I don't know that she would have done that because Colleen Hoover created the name. So I don't know if she would poke fun at it or not. The movie did. I thought that was a really good way for me to not think about it moving forward. So I really liked that. They're talking. She asks him to reveal naked truths, and he tells a story about how he saw a boy die, and through accidental gun violence in the home. And, she asked, like, well, what happened to the boy who lived? And you could tell he was distraught. And it's like, it destroys him for life. See, I thought because he says that he's a neurosurgeon, I thought that maybe this was why he came upstairs and kicked the chair. I was wrong, but that's what I thought in the moment. So if they were trying to get me to believe that, or if there was a kind of a bait and switch, that definitely ended up happening. So she's like, she wants more naked truth. She says, surprise me. And he goes, I want to have sex with you. And that got the theater pretty hyped up when he said that. It was funny. It was like, ooh, like, okay. He's like, you wanted me to surprise you. It was funny when she didn't believe that he was a neurosurgeon, and she didn't believe it all the way until he gets called away right as they're about to not have sex, but they were going to see how far she'll let him go type of thing. Consensually, of course. Then you come back, he finds out that she wants to be a florist, and her name Lily Blossom Bloom, whatever. So that information is revealed. We cut to she's getting the keys, and then this girl comes in as she's trying to clean. Jenny Slate's character with kind of like, oh, I walk past this place every day, I need a job. Like, I don't know what necessarily she was doing with her life before that, but you know, she's got like a pretty rich boyfriend. Maybe she doesn't have to work. They did point out that maybe she's a little bored, right? So you know, that is what it is. She ends up starting to work there, and then the next day, or I think it was the same day, it's probably later on actually, she invites her boyfriend and her brother to come over to the florist shop. And at a certain point, so I found myself like crossing my fingers, like I was really hoping her brother was going to be John Raphael, because they're brother and sister in Parks and Rec. So I was like, oh, this would be really cool. This would be really cool. Ben Schwartz is the actor's name. However, they did something even better than that. Like, if you weren't going to have Ben Schwartz come in and play her brother, like the next best thing was the neurosurgeon Justin Baldoni's character, Ryle, which I thought was, I'm sure the name is given to him in the books because of some, you know, he's riling her up or whatever, but Ryle is just a weird name, and it hit my ears weird whenever it was said, and then eventually it was shown up on the phone and spelled differently than I thought too, so it was a little jarring for me. But he comes in, she acts like she doesn't know him. He's like, oh no, we know a little bit. We shared naked truths, and the sister and the brother dynamic was hilarious. She's like, ew, you know, that was great. It was funny. It was funnier than I expected it to be. I didn't really have many expectations going into it. It's a movie that takes place in the New England area. I'm from the New England area, so I thought that I like Blake Lively. I like Ryan Reynolds, who's Blake Lively's husband. So all these things. So I wanted to support that. My girlfriend's read the book. I didn't know this was the first Colleen Hoover book adaptation, and I know that she's a very famous, very good and has a big library of books. My mom reads books. I go to the library a lot. You see people reading Colleen Hoover books all the time. So this is surprising to me that it was her first adaptation. Speaking of which, she was in the background in the birthday party scene that was coming up with Jenny Slate's character's birthday, and everybody was like pointing at the screen, oh, it's Colleen Hoover, and they showed her for a decent amount of time, and I will expect to see her in her movies moving forward. So that's probably like our new, or not our new, but a new type of Stan Lee type of cameo situation. So turns out the neurosurgeon brother is, you know, a womanizer. He doesn't like relationships, but he's really fallen for Blake Lively's character. On and on again. I can't stop thinking about you. I can't stop thinking about you, even though they're agreeing to be friends and whatever. And so he's being very respectful, right? He's not forcing himself on her. He's not, you know, he's letting her go at her own pace. He's actually showing her that he wants to try and do a relationship with her. So it's very hopeful. Again, I have no idea what this book's about. The title feels morbid in nature, so I didn't know what to expect. Right, so I went in this completely blind, and I'm having my own thoughts, which I'm sure are different than most of the other people in the theater. So the birthday scene happens. They ended up sleeping together and waking up together, but not having had hooked up. So Jenny Slate's character comes in with coffee, finds them together. It's not what it looks like. Oh, you know, it is, you know, whatever. And she starts talking crap about her brother, like he's, you know, he's gonna do you wrong, he's gonna do you dirty, you know, as siblings tend to do. And then she left the coffee for Blake Lively's character and walked out. And I can't remember if that's morning or maybe it's one of the next mornings where there's this breakfast scene. He is cooking breakfast for her, and she's like, this is too good to be true, yada yada yada, you're wealthy, you're a neurosurgeon, you know how to cook, you're handsome, all these, you know, superficial things. And they're starting to get hot and heavy, and she warns him about the frittata is burning. And then sure enough, smoke alarm goes off, he comes out, and she's like, don't grab it with your hand, tries to give him an oven mitt, but he reaches in and grabs the hot thing with his hand anyway and pulls his hand away and hits Blake Lively's character in the eye, gives her kind of a black eye. Now, the movie, and again, I didn't read the book. I talked to my girlfriend and she explained to me like how things are in the book, but what I saw, what the movie the movie scene that they shot showed that it appeared to be an accident. Like it wasn't I burned my hand and then I punch. It was pulling my hand away, right? And then he fell, like she kind of like pushed him a little bit, and he fell into glass that was broken, and his hand was all messed up right before like the world's most difficult surgery that he's gonna have to do the next day. And she's like, "Oh, your hand, my bad." And so I was like, "Oh my god, she messed up his potential to do the surgery. Something bad's gonna happen." And they cut forward, and the movie kept kind of skipping months ahead and days ahead and weeks ahead without really making it known to the audience, other than if a girl ended up being pregnant, like months have passed. But there were 2 pregnancies in the movie that kind of went by like that. So what happened is it didn't affect the surgery at all. I thought that was a strange choice, right? But then the movie shows you why they decided to have his hand hurt and wrapped up. Is they go to dinner, and the movie's been doing flashbacks this whole time to the time she had lost her virginity, or the person she lost her virginity with, but like how she met him, and it was this homeless guy or misplaced, or however she says it's supposed to be said in the movie. And so we're going back and forth, and in the very beginning of the movie, the first shot of the movie, she's got her like a wooden oak heart on, which we find out she later has tattooed on her chest. As the story is progressing, you find out that the boy Atlas, who she lost her virginity to, was the person who carved that for her, and why she decided to get the tattoo. And then we find out through that he left his home because his mom was getting beaten. And then turns out Blake Lively's character's mom is getting beaten. And when dad comes home and finds that they're in bed together, Blake Lively's character and Atlas, he beats him up so bad that he has to go to the hospital, almost kills him. So it's starting to reveal in the movie that abuse, familial or domestic abuse, is something that is definitely driving this, the motivations of the characters. Right. So again, I had no idea what to expect going into the movie. The trailer didn't really tell me a lot about what the movie was about. That's okay. So now we know why she doesn't like her dad. Now we know that she consoled into this guy until he was beaten up by dad. So that's why she's not with him anymore. And we fast forward to this, and we cut back and we go to this dinner scene, and the server at the table is Atlas grown up. So her current boyfriend had gone, and when he comes back, they see this is maybe the second time they saw at dinner, but he sees the bandage on his hand and the black eye on her, and he's not happy. He follows her into the bathroom. It's not the server. He ends up being the owner of the restaurant, he didn't dress like the owner of the restaurant. So it, visually, I thought that they could have done a better job displaying that up front. Unless that's what they wanted us to feel. They wanted us to feel like, okay, he's lesser than, so you got a guy who doesn't make a lot of money, whatever, but is a better person, comparative. So if that's what they were going for, it made sense. But if it wasn't, I definitely didn't recognize him as the owner. So he's like, he hit you, whatever, you're becoming your mom. Very good scene. And then as they come out of the bathroom, camera pans, and Ryle is standing there. And Atlas starts a fight with him. It's like, if you ever put a hand on her, I'll cut it off, and all this stuff. And the fight, the little squabble scene that they had seemed very fake. It was very much 2 actors acting like they're mad at each other. Well, they were doing a good job looking like they were mad, but they were like, the physicality of it left a lot to be desired. And I didn't need a big knockdown, drag out fight, but it needs to look like he's actually serious, and it didn't. So that kind of jarred me for a little bit, but the scene was intense enough that I was able to come back from that pretty quickly. So, and then Atlas shows up at the flower shop. He wanted to go back the next day, but Ryle was there, and he thought that wasn't a good idea. So he comes back and he gives his number to Blake Lively, Lily, but doesn't put it in her phone or anything like that. He writes on a card from her shop and slides it in the back of her phone case. which then, that's not usually how things go. So maybe it was going to work whenever. Whenever you need me, he says, just reach out to me. Another scene happened where Ryle goes in the other room, and they're at home, Lily and Ryle, and Lily hears something knock over. She comes in, Ryle's standing there, and they do a really good job, like, revealing what the situation is. He's like, hey, I knocked your phone, found your phone case off, and I called the number, and it's about it. And then they kind of have a disagreement, and he's like walking away, and she's trying to stop him, and then they're going down the stairs of the building, and she cuts in front of him. And I was paying attention very closely because obviously I know now domestic abuse is something that is going to be a point in this movie. So I'm saying, is he going to push her down the stairs, or what's going to happen? And sure enough, there was, when she cut in front of him right at the top of the stairs, you start to see her fall, and then cuts to black. When I saw the footage that they showed me of both the frittata incident and the stairwell incident, made it seem accidental. Made it seem like he was trying to not have that happen. But it was weird because when she woke up, she had a cut on her head, and she was at his place. She wasn't at the hospital. Like, he was taking care of her, and kind of described to her what could be somewhat of a non-truthful retelling of the event. So, but again, visually, what the movie showed us, it didn't look like it was on purpose. It did look like it was on accident. It didn't look like he was maliciously doing that. But now this is the second accident that happens. And in the book, if they make it more clear that it's not an accident, they didn't do that in the movie. So it doesn't matter what the book did, because this is the movie and this is what I watched. So she's starting to kind of move forward with her life. The flower shop business is going well. Things like that are happening. Throughout the movie, Ryle had been asking about the tattoo on her and like where it comes from. And as we get to the third act of the movie, but not really a traditional three-act structure, it's more of towards the final third of the movie. Jenny Slate's character comes in with a magazine of like the best in Boston, top 10, and number 7 is Lily Bloom's, like that's the name of the shop. But as you see, number 1 is Root, the name of the restaurant that Atlas owns. So they're celebrating it, but they don't really pay too much. Like they literally do that for the audience and come back, and then they're just talking about the stuff that's good about Lily Bloom's. Fast forward to coming home at night. Ryle comes home with the news with the magazine. Our girl, best in Boston, yada yada yada. He asks her to read it. She starts to read her article to him, and he says, "No, not that one. Why don't we go to number 1?" And I was like, "Oh, that's the business that Atlas owns." And she starts reading. She's like, "No. Why don't you read the bottom?" And it starts to be like, "Well, I got the name from an oak tree situation of a heart that I carved for a girl," and she's like, "I don't want to keep reading." And he's like, "Please go on." And he, but by please, he was it's essentially forcing her. And then she read about the interview, asked him, "When was the last time you saw the girl? Have you seen the girl again?" Yada yada yada. And she, you can tell Blake Lively's uncomfortable. She doesn't want to read anymore. She's, she can't control what this guy's saying. All these things. Ryle had said, if you're gonna, anybody but him. Right, basically, like, if you're gonna cheat on me or leave me, please let it be for anybody but him. The guy she lost her virginity to, that she told him. So the scene starts to really get intentionally uncomfortable there. He's forcing himself on her. It looks like he's about to rape her. She keeps saying no. She keeps saying no. She's being very like calm and cool and collected about it, but he's just really kind of forcing the issue. And then he kind of like leans towards her neck, and she pushes him off, and then she was able to get away. And she ends up going to Ryle's restaurant, or Atlas's restaurant, and he takes her to the hospital, and we find out that there's a bite mark around the tattoo on her collarbone area. So it's not implied, it's straight up shown to us that Ryle was trying to bite the tattoo off of her. Totally uncalled for, really uncomfortable. And they're like, well, we can't x-ray you for a broken collarbone because we only do x-rays on pregnant women if need be. And that's when everybody realizes, even her, that she's pregnant with this now very much non-accidental abuser, right? The movie it felt like it went out of its way to show the first two incidents as accidents, but it definitely that third incident was no accident. He's an abuser. He's a piece of crap. It doesn't matter if the other two were accidents. It's now a pattern of escalation and incidents like that. So he's a piece of crap. And by this point, we're not rooting for him. She ignores him. She's not talking to him. She's staying at Atlas's house. She's building the crib. She's getting ready. She's showing her pregnant belly. Ryle shows up on the phone. Oh, let me talk to you. Let me, help you, whatever. He comes over to mom's house, helps her build the crib for him. And, it seems like things are going okay. And then fast forward to when the child was born. He comes into the room, probably because he works at the hospital. He's doing his stuff. And after the child is born, she lets him hold it. And I'm like, what's going to happen? Is he going to take the child? Is he going to run away with it? Like, I have no idea what to expect from these characters because it's based on a book and I don't know what the book shows for the characters. I know what, maybe traditionally written characters would do following a line of logic, but that what this isn't what that type of movie was. So I was like, oh my God, he gave her the baby. He's going to run away. He asked her what he's going to name it. And earlier in the movie, she found out that the story that he told about the boy and the gun violence was actually him. He accidentally killed his brother when he was 6 years old, his older brother. And that brother's name was Emerson. So she says, we should name her after your brother, Emerson. And we can call her Emmy. He starts crying. That's the nicest thing anybody's ever done for me. He gives the baby back. She says, I want a divorce. The crowd laughed. I didn't think it was funny. And then she's like, what would you tell your daughter if she got hit in the face and got a black eye? What would you tell your daughter if she was pushed down the stairs and her boyfriend said it was an accident and tried to convince her that she fell? What would you say if a guy forced himself on top of her and wouldn't get away, wouldn't get off, wouldn't listen to her? And, you could tell it started to affect him because he was realizing, again, some of the incidents, they looked like accidents. Some of them, they seemed very intentional. But they showed us a replay of all of the first two incidents with kind of a foggy little border of her memory. And it was completely different. It was he burned his hand, looked at her, hit her. And then it was the stairwell scene. He's mad. He grabs her and pushes her. That was not how they showed it in the film the first time. So I thought that was an interesting approach to take for this. My girlfriend was like, no, that's the truth. Her memory is the truth. But she made a point earlier in the movie to say, I'm an unreliable narrator, which is a storytelling technique for this person who's telling you what's happening might not be able to be believed fully. They might not be telling the full truth, right? So I took that as to believe, well, she's just thinking that those first two things were intentional, regardless of the third one. The third one was intentional. He's a piece of crap. So there's some ambiguity there that my girlfriend and I were kind of going back and forth on. Well, is that true? Is that not true? What's happening? He says, I would beg my daughter to leave that man. And then, so that's kind of how we get them being broken up. They show her and she says, show them, baby, it stops here with you and me. And I thought that would have been a perfect part to pull the title card. It ends with us. Right. But then she said it ends with us. And I was like, okay, now they're going to do the title card. Nope. They were fast forwarding through, showing her living her life. And then she shows up to this carnival and Atlas is there however many years later. And they have a little conversation. And then it's implied that they're going to try and work it out with each other. Because Atlas had said earlier, if you're ready to love anybody else ever again after Ryle, please let it be me. So, all in all, I thought the movie was well done. I'm not the target demographic for it necessarily, but I thought it was really well done. An exploration of that. I mean, people who read the book are going to see things differently. The character of Blake Lively doesn't maybe mesh with how Lily was described in the book. That doesn't matter. Taking the movie as it is. So I would say I give the movie a 7 out of 10 just because I enjoyed it. I was on the edge of my seat. There were some scenes that were really uncomfortable, and it was an experience. The theater was packed. And yeah, now critics, 51 reviews are up. Let's refresh this real quick. 51 reviews are up, and it's a 59% on Rotten Tomatoes, which means 6 out of 10 critics gave it a thumbs up, and the others gave it a thumbs down. So I'm interested to see what the audience score ends up being. And we'll check that on later on. So what did you guys think? Have you seen the movie? Do you want to see the movie? Do you have no interest in the movie? Do you agree with me? Do you agree with my girlfriend? Do you disagree with both of us? Whatever you think, please comment in the comment section below, and I will catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching Gino's Best Movie Reviews.